So folks, I'm about to make some dumpling to go along with the stew beef. And this recipe, once again, is a very simple one. You can definitely grate coconut from scratch, squeeze out the milk and use that. But today I'm going to actually use just some canned coconut milk because that's what I have in house right now. We have some all-purpose flour, salt, sugar, water, and the coconut milk. Nothing fancy going on here. So I'm just going to add the sugar to the flour. I'm also going to add the salt. And then I'm just going to take my whisk and just kind of mix that around just to make sure the sugar and salt is distributed evenly within the flour. So that way once I start mixing, I am good to go. I'm going to then add to this coconut milk right in the middle. And just to start incorporating, I'm using a spatula before I put my hand in the flour. Once I see the consistency that I'm looking for, then I'll start putting my hands in. Water. And I personally like my dumpling to be a little stiff. Some people like the dumpling soft, but I like mine to be a little stiff. So all that means is when I knead the flour, it's going to take a little bit more effort to knead it. All right. So once the liquid starts incorporating and I feel like I can get a dough started, that's when I'm going to put my hands in. So all my flour is starting to incorporate nicely. And now I can put my hands in there. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit more flour so it's less sticky. Okay, so I adding in some more flour here. And then I'm just going to knead. Now keep in mind also the kneading process is what develops the gluten in the flour, making it that nice stretchy, tough consistency. So the more tough you want your dumpling, the more you knead it. If you want soft dumpling, then you kind of mix it with the spoon and you set it aside. But like I said, I like mine a lot more firm. So I'm going to knead it until my dough is smooth, and then you're going to set this dough aside so that the flour can relax again. So it's funny, you want to knead it enough so that the flour gets tight, but then you're going to let it sit so that the flour relax, so that way it will make it very easy to roll and form our dumpling once we're ready to do so. Alright, so my flour looking pretty smooth right there. So this is what we're looking like. Alright, so once this is done, I'm just going to let this sit and hang out. And I'm just going to put the whole bowl uncovered just as is in the microwave. Obviously off, but just set it in the microwave to relax for a little bit while we continue on with the rest of this meal. Okay folks, so my dough has been sitting in the microwave for about 15 minutes. And so when I touch it, I can tell that the dough itself has loosened up, so it's not as tight. So now I can roll it and form it. Before I begin this process, let me start by saying, yes, it is not the conventional Trini way in which I am doing it. However, it is what I've found very easy, but also when you're having to cook a lot of food and you're constantly cooking, I find it to be more efficient. So that's what I'm going to show you today. However, if you feel like standing there and picking off a piece of dumpling and making your kettle tongue dumpling, you're more than welcome to. But for this process, I'm actually going to use a rolling pin, roll and cut the dumpling. And that way I get nice even dumpling, and then when I start dropping it in the pot, I can drop most of them at the same time so they cook at the same time. So trust me, it is well worth it. So my dough here is nice. So this is a nice big piece, so I'm just going to cut it in half to make it easier to work with. And to this one, we're going to lightly knead again, add some flour. And you see how nice and soft the dough is now? So I'm just going to give it a nice knead again. And now the flour just, it works a lot easier. And you can see how smooth it is as well. All right, so now I can start rolling. Add flour. I'm going to start with my hand first. So just rolling in the middle first before I start moving out. All right. Nice. Now my dough is at a perfect thickness. All right. And so now I am just going to cut it. And you can cut your dumpling as big or small as you want. That's all up to you. So once my water starts boiling, I am going to start dropping my dumpling into the pot, which I will show you. Okay, so here we have our water that is nice and boiling. So once you're making dumpling, you really want to make sure the water is boiling, not just simmering but boiling, because the bubbles also help us to keep the dumpling from sticking. So now that the water is boiling, I have my dumpling. I'm just going to start adding them to the pot. And how do you know your dumpling is finished cooking? They will actually start floating to the top once they don't all stick together in the bottom of the pot. So once I add all of them, I'm going to give it a light stir to just mix them up. And then once I do that, all the cooked ones are going to start coming right up to the top. Alright, so I'm just going to give this a light stir. Right from the bottom. And then let that go until they start floating to the top. Okay, so I hope you can see this. Now that the dumpling is cooked, look how they just come right up to the top. Such a beautiful thing. Okay folks, so right here I have the dumpling. I just strained it, took it out of the pot, and now I have it here in a basin, and I'm going to run some cold water over them. And this is to cool them down, but also to make sure I wash off all the starch on the outside so that they don't stick together once they start to cool down. Alright, so you can see dumpling nice here. I'm going to add a little bit of oil to keep them from sticking. And that's it. I'm going to put this in a nice Pyrex or a bowl or something to hold until everything else is finished cooking.